According to a 2012 Gallup poll of 142 countries, just 13% of people worldwide are engaged at work. Worse still, 24% are actively disengaged, in other words, consciously undermining their co-workers and their organisation's success. Now, the prize for those that secure and retain the cream of the crop is self-evident, but here's the rub. The plethora of outdated HR practices that proliferate. People often excluded from corporate discussion or strategic decision-making. That lets subjective practices spread like a pandemic. Well, my guest on Book Club became a self-styled HR revolutionary quite by chance. She got drunk at a Flight Centre conference, told the CEO the way the company hired and developed people was, quote, crap, unquote. Mandy Johnson went on to co-found the company's UK operations. She turned it into Flight Centre's second most profitable unit outside Australia. And now she's distilled over a decade of her own winning techniques, ones crafted through plenty of mistakes, but crucially minus any HR degree jacket, into this book, Winning the War for Talent, How to Attract and Keep the People Who Make Your Business Profitable. This is published by Wiley. Mandy Johnson is with me from our Brisbane studio, live. A warm welcome into the show, Mandy. You start in a very provocative tone in the book, referencing another two surveys, actually. One about what keeps chief executives awake at night, answer sourcing and retaining skilled staff. Two, a PwC survey, what are you doing strategically? Hello? That reality that keeps them awake at night doesn't even register. Is that for you one of the biggest paradoxes about this whole discussion?
Oh, look, I am dumbfounded at the lack of any kind of strategic, anything that CEOs are doing. They're just really doing nothing at all about recruitment and retention. You know, IT, sales, marketing, you know, everyone wants to talk about it. As soon as you talk about people practices, even though these are the same people that are telling me that it's crippling their businesses, you know, they can't find the great people to expand, and yet as soon as, you know, they just don't give it any kind of attention. I find that fascinating.
Not only that, but how dispiriting, from fascinating to dispiriting, do you personally feel when, as an agent of change, and you document this in the book, and let's take an example of a yacht company, where you go in, you turn the ship around, and then a little later, you investigate. That company's gone into liquidation. In other words, where was the traction? Where was the follow-through?
Well, I think that's the interesting thing, because what I did there was I actually went undercover because I wanted to see if my HR techniques worked in another business. And, you know, I was fascinated to see how dysfunctional in that particular business HR really was just a police, kind of thing that they just policed everyone in the business. You know, they did drug searches and they did, even though they had 88 vacancies, no one recruited. And so, you know, even though I managed to get people and whatever, because the attitude of the corporation really was not focused on recruitment or retention, that as soon as I left, they just couldn't sustain it. And it's so interesting to me that, you know, with 88 vacancies, and they were building these yachts that, if the yachts went over time, if they couldn't build them on time, they had multi-million-dollar fines, and yet they had an HR department that wasn't doing anything on recruitment whatsoever. It was, you know, I just find that so interesting.
You said in that answer, my techniques, and this is, as it were, the great revelation, that there was no HR degree that you're trumpeting or flashing up with certificates. It was all down to almost osmosis. How practically were you able to develop a system and at the same time be expected to be opening store after store, week after week for Flight Centre? It was almost as if you were putting the horse before the cart on a daily basis.
Well, It was. I call it my 5-year MBA because I've never actually worked so hard in my life.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what it really did, though, was it really helped me because my big thing is if you get the right people in the first place who are a really good fit for the role and they're a really good fit for the organisation, then the rest of it's simple because they actually grow and innovate the business themselves.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to keep performance managing bad eggs or, you know, you don't actually have to do a lot of training because they're really out there, you know, wanting to learn. So really, even though, you know, I was developing all this stuff, it was all really helping my business and also the bottom line. You know, it was fantastic to see when you get really motivated people, you know, how much more productivity they bring to the business as well.
Can you tell me from an eyes wide open perspective the importance, and you flagged this time and again, of attitude versus skill, and that, you know, almost the way things have been turned on their head, but in the wrong respect, time and again, the search is misguided.
So what my things is that people like Richard Branson and that would never get a job these days because what's happened is HR departments have so bureaucratised their system of finding people and it's all based around work skills. So for people that have a great attitude, you know, they just get knocked out before they even get to see a recruiter in the first place. You know, the application processes are so built around work skills. And if you actually look at why people don't work out, it's generally has nothing to do with work skills. You know, it might be that they're late or they argue with their co-workers or they're negative. It's all about attitude and really has not much to do with work skills at all.
Mandy, how do you get buy-in, as you say, from vested interests, particularly, heaven forbid, when those same people might be on the share register? So very, very difficult to shift vested interests. You know, you may be parachuted in and you may shake it up, but like I was putting to you before with the yacht company example, it's about continuity. It's about demonstrable buy-in to see this run the course.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems, I call really the war for talent is really a war from within. Because unless you can change people's attitudes to recruitment, and really if you look, because for 100 years it was so easy to get people, you know, we had the Depression, you know, you had women joining the workforce, we had the baby boom, so when people outnumbered jobs available, it was simple to get people. Now it's not anymore, but the companies are still in that attitude that people are lucky to get jobs.
Yeah.
So the first war is really changing that, and that can only be done from CEO level down. Just by, you know, I talk to lots of recruiters who absolutely get this message and want to make change, but you know, until the executive team realises that HR needs a seat at the top table, that they need people of calibre there, I don't think you're going to see much change. And you know, the thing is, it's now vital for business success.
For sure.
If you can't get the right people, you can't grow your business, you can't go from good to great. You know, so HR is really changing, and people have to change with it.
Mandy, we have little time, but can we just shift the focus to retention? You have a very colourful metaphor. Imagine a sports person seeing their coach only once or twice a year. It just wouldn't happen, as you say. And yet, time and again, the one-on-one approach is absent. There's nada.
Absolutely. And like my metaphor here is, if you are a professional coach and you want to develop a high-performing athlete, A, you don't see them twice a year, and B, when you meet with them, you don't tell them everything they're doing wrong. You know, it certainly wouldn't be, and you might actually listen to what they have to say and see if they've got some good ideas, because they're the ones out running all the time.
Alongside that, you put, and you say from your own experience, the most successful companies I've worked for have always been the most transparent. How would you rank in aggregate our ability to really lay our cards on the table, both sides, management and workers?
I would say, since I've been business consulting, which is the last 10 years, I actually thought, before I did that transparency was quite normal. I would now say that it's a rarity in most businesses, and most businesses struggle with it. And my analogy to this is, when someone starts a business, everything is transparent because everyone's got access to the boss and it all works very well. It's as they get bigger, they can't make that transition, and people start holding information as power, and as soon as you lose that transparency, you lose the trust. And it's amazing how much impact that has on people and on staff retention specifically, because if people don't know what's going on, then they don't invest in the business themselves.
And a final thought just to leave people with, as you say, the single greatest weapon for winning the staff retention battle comes down also to a relationship, one that exists between an employee and their immediate supervisor. If that ain't healthy, well, the rest is rotten.
Yes. That's
so true.
Look, that supervisor-employee relationship, and we all know rogue managers. You get that constant staff turnover when you have a manager. Often they manage upwards, but they're absolutely lethal to staff, and that is just a killer for staff retention. So create, A, recruiting great managers in the first place, and B, teaching them how to grow that relationship. It is key.
Mandy, I get books thumping onto my desk day in, day out, week in, week out. This was unputdownable. Best of luck with it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Got to say it was. I was sceptical to start with. I have to say that I was incredibly sceptical. Here's another to-do list, here's another checklist, but the more I read, it was so engaging, it wasn't funny. And it was salutary.
That's great. Oh, thank you very much.
Well, the very best. Mandy Johnson there, Winning the War for Talent, published by Wiley Business Publishing. That is your book club for this Friday. We'll take a short break. Coming up,